This is in fact the island of Hawaii, and is alleged to have a great deal of life on it, but you can't see anything of it here. All you can see is a volcano. Here's another volcano. I think this is Etna, and again, much the same situation. Beautiful mountain, no sign of nearby life. And here is another sign of geological activity. On the left in color is the San Francisco Bay Area and the Great San Andreas Fault coming down from the bay, which is a sign of great geological activity. There are many earthquakes there. In fact, eventually, California will drift out into the Pacific Ocean. California will drift out into the Pacific Ocean because of a split or tear along that line. Now, that will not happen soon, in some people's minds, regretfully, but will happen in the next few million years. Also in that picture, on the right, is another similar feature, the great East African Rift Valley, which is beginning here at the Dead Sea and goes all the way down to South Africa. It is 5,000 kilometers or 3,000 miles long and is a sign of great recent geological activity on the Earth. When we look at Mars later, we will find that there is a perhaps similar feature there. Here is a crater in North Africa. Perhaps it is of impact origin, perhaps not. Such craters are formed on the Earth as on the Moon, but the Earth has very efficient erosion. Wind and water rub things out, and for that reason we have at any given time very few craters, even though big rocks fall from the sky on the Earth about as often as they do on, say, Mercury or the Moon. Here is, in the Arabian Peninsula, a set of lovely Sif sand dunes, which it would be one sign of evidence that the Earth's atmosphere is active and stirs up material and makes sand storms. Once we knew something of the atmosphere of the Earth, we could deduce that indirectly as well as this direct evidence. Notice all this time there's not a hint of life. We're looking at the Earth reasonably closely. We're looking often at kilometer resolution. We're seeing things a little more than half a mile across. And yet, in all these pictures up to now, there hasn't been a hint of anything alive. Nor in this picture. You can see at left a lovely snow has happened in this mountainous region. To the right, you can see the mountainous region without snow. These are, in fact, the Rocky Mountains in the United States in the vicinity of Denver, Colorado. Here is part of the St. Lawrence Seaway in Canada, and you can see great floating blocks of ice breaking up. This is one of many pictures that would indicate the presence, not just in oceans, but inland, of liquid water. Here is a beautiful picture of ice-choked, sinuous rivers in the Arctic. And this picture, as many others, show the Earth to be extraordinarily beautiful. And I think long after our scientists got totally bored with the Earth, our artists would continue to be interested in it. Here now is a close-up picture of a particular river. You may see two numbers, a 5 and a 6 on the Earth. They have not actually been written on the Earth. That's just been put on for another reason. We should ignore that. If we saw a large 5 on the surface of the Earth, that would suggest that there was life on the planet, of course, especially if we used Arabic numerals. But what we see is this sinuous, tributaried, wandering feature, which is a characteristic feature of flowing liquids. And we can also look at the mouth of this river, the Colorado River. The mouth is up here at the center. And follow, yes, here's the mouth of the river. And we can follow the entire course of the river. By the way, in this picture, there is, right within the box here, a sort of corkscrew on the ground, some miles long. And it looks very strange and perhaps artificial. We might think that perhaps that was produced by intelligent beings. Turns out, not in the least, that's an old stream valley. Here now is a photograph of the east coast of the United States at kilometer resolution. And if you look closely at, say, New York City over here, or at Washington, D.C. over here, you find no sign of life, intelligent or otherwise, at kilometer resolution. You do find that the cities are discolored. The places where there are cities turn out from orbit to be dirty. But it would be a very intelligent extraterrestrial who would deduce that wherever there's dirt, there's intelligent life. And apart from the fact that cities are generally dirty, there's no indication of the existence of cities, much less their inhabitants, at this resolution scale. Now, here's a picture which clearly shows the presence of life, if only we were wise enough to recognize it. Because each of these peculiar Pacific islands is a coral atoll, is a product of life. That one, say, or that one, or this one over here. They are produced by colonial organisms, coral, hordes of animals all working together to make a coral island. But unless we know beforehand about life on Earth, it would not be apparent that that's the case. So here's a sign of life, but we wouldn't recognize it. Now here is the Salton Sea in California, and just below it, a region called the Imperial Valley, which in this picture gives a sense of structure. There's a kind of mottled pattern there. If only we could see it better, we might know something about what it's like. Well, we can look more closely, and here, if we look still more closely at this red patterned ground, we have a sense of structure, of squares and rectangles, just barely apparent. If we look elsewhere, at improved resolution, we find that the Earth is covered with squares and rectangles. When we look at the Earth at 100 meters resolution, there are squares everywhere. For some reason, the Earth is into squares. Now, there is no way that this could be of geological or meteorological origin. These squares could only be of biological origin. And so we would have to deduce that there's some strange form of intelligent life on the Earth which is passionate about carving the ground up into squares and rectangles for reasons which we cannot in the least imagine, but there's no doubt that that's what it likes to do. And so now we must make a search for the square people. Here, this is a place called Chicago. Different kind of squares and rectangles are apparent here. What their function is, not so obvious. This is Denmark, where they're more into rectangles than into squares. It's a nice departure. Here is France, where the arrangement is not nearly so regular, and also each pattern is separated from the next one by a dark line, which is in many cases due to hedges. So here we have not just a passion for Euclidean geometry, but also a passion for territoriality. And here is still another pattern. This place is into rectangles, but is also into up. In this place, great structures have been built vertically as well as horizontally. This is New York City. And how these stalagmites of intelligent origin ever came to be would not be apparent to us, much less why they would want to build up when there's so much unused ground to build sideways on. There would also be vast engineering constructs which would be apparent to us. This is the great Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico, about which we will say more in a subsequent lecture. And now here is a candidate dominant organism on the planet. Each of these is a creature which, for sake of definiteness, I will call an automobile. And here is a great horde of these intelligent organisms, all clustering together, perhaps for warmth, or perhaps it's an outdoor political rally, or maybe a religious revival meeting. And one can, in fact, see that much of North America and Europe is constructed for the sake of these little organisms. Great straight